Do you want to play a game?
They're here.
Welcome to another episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls. I'm your host, Ian Van Gogh. Each week, we'll be talking about horror movie news, horror topics, trivia questions, anything else horror-related that you guys would like to hear about. Now, we are streaming live from Twitch. We do this every week, but you can find me here at twitch.tv/Ian Van Gogh, as well as at Ian Van Gogh on YouTube and at Ian.VanGogh on TikTok. You get your very own Ghoul Squad merch at GhoulSquadShop.com. Be sure to join our Ghoul Squad Discord so you can stay up to date on all stream, music, podcast news, and updates. Share movie recommendations, trivia, song requests, and subjects for the podcast, and much, much more. And you can now find the audio portion of the podcast on all platforms where you can find podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc. And speaking of that, I do want to thank my buddy Jay from the Project Skeptic podcast. He helped me out with getting the distribution and all that set up, so I appreciate that very much. And if you're a fan of conspiracies, cryptids, Bigfoots, aliens, and that motherfucker isn't real, then go check out his podcast at Project Skeptic, and I'll link it in the show notes. So let's get into it here this week. We have quite a bit to cover. So horror news from the past week. So in the horror world, not often does it happen, but there are times where, I'll watch a movie and I'll think that would make a really good series, or maybe a prequel or a sequel. Like, there's a really cool idea there that I would love to see get made. And like I said, it doesn't happen often, but I think it is finally happening. 13 Ghosts is getting a television series, allegedly. So it should be adapted by Dark Castle Entertainment. It's the company behind the 2001 movie, and it will explore a different ghost in each episode. Now, I've been asking for this and wanting this ever since the movie was released, so I'm really, really excited for it. And I hope it does come to fruition, that they do make it, and that it is just as good as the movie is. So that's really exciting news there. In other news, VHS 85 is in production now as well. If you've seen the VHS movies, you're familiar with the franchise. There's 5 movies right now: VHS, VHS 2, VHS Viral, VHS 94, and VHS 99. I'm a pretty big fan of the first 2 movies. Viral was not for me. In 94 and 99, I do like different segments of both of those. But there's been 5 directors announced so far. First one, David Bruckner. He's the only returning director from any of the previous VHS movies. So he directed Amateur Night from the very first VHS, which, if you've seen that movie, it's I believe the very first segment, and has the kind of demon girl that says, "I like you, I like you." And that's probably my favorite segment from that movie. So he also directed the 2022 version of Hellraiser, Night House, Southbound, and The Ritual. So I'm a big fan of his, so I'm excited about that. As well, we have Scott Derrickson, who directed Sinister, The Black Phone, and Deliver Us from Evil. Also a big fan of his. The other 3 I'm not too familiar with. So we have Natasha Kermani. She directed a movie called Lucky and Imitation Girl. I haven't seen either of those, so I'm not familiar with her work. Mike P. Nelson, he directed The Domestics and the 2021 version of Wrong Turn, which I still have yet to watch. It's on my list. I'll get to it. And the final director is Gigi Saul Guerrero, which, when I was writing the notes for this, I recognized her name, and then I come to find out that she's also an actress, and she was in a movie called Funhouse that I just reviewed not too long ago. But she's also a director, obviously. She's directed Satanic Hispanics, Bingo Hell, and 1 episode of the Purge TV show. So like I said, the last 3 I'm not too familiar with, but I'm really excited for the first 2, and I'm hoping that it's more in line with the first 2 VHS movies. But regardless, I'm hoping it's at least a good time, so I'm excited for that. The last bit of news is Chucky Season 3 will premiere October 4th. Now, unfortunately, I'm not caught up on the show yet. I watched the first season, and I wasn't the biggest fan to start off, but by the end of it, I really, really enjoyed it. Season 2, I watched the very first episode, but I don't have the platform that it was streaming on every week, so I couldn't finish it. I think it is all up on streaming somewhere now, so I'm going to watch that before the Season 3 premiere, but I'm very excited that Chucky is still ongoing. They're still making new stuff with Chucky, so that's very, very cool news. So let's get into some reviews from the past week. So, Cobweb. This movie, I was very upset that it did not come to a movie theater near me. I saw the trailers numerous times, and I was very excited to go see it. And the Thursday night before it was supposed to be released on Friday, I pull up my app and I go to look to see what time the showing is in the morning, and it's not there. The closest place it was showing was, about 2 hours away, and I was not a happy camper. Fortunately, it is out for purchase now on digital, so I picked it up, and I absolutely love this movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. It might be one of my favorites of the year. It was a wild ride of a movie, has fantastic acting. I'm not going to really say too much about it. Just check it out, and hopefully you like it. The next one was The Devil Inside. This one I was not a fan of. It's more of a mockumentary, found footage style. It didn't work for me. I didn't find it very interesting, and it was pretty, basic as far as possession, exorcism type movies go. So I wasn't a huge fan of that one. The next one was Amityville: The Awakening, which I gave a 5 out of 10. There was some confusion on the release dates and when exactly it was filmed. So in my review, I said I thought it was filmed in 2011. Apparently it was filmed in 2014, but it still was pushed back quite a few years. It wasn't released until 2017. But yeah, 3/4 of this movie I really enjoyed, but the last 20 to 25 minutes were pretty bad and kind of ruined the whole thing for me. So it was a 5 out of 10. Next one was Creepshow 2. Huge fan of Creepshow and Creepshow 2. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's more 80s anthology fun. I really enjoyed the stories in this one. So yeah, can't go wrong with Creepshow and Creepshow 2. From there, we went into The Descent, which is a fantastic movie. Hadn't watched it in years, and it was still just as good. I give it a 9 out of 10. I loved it. It's an all-female led movie. There's so many feels to this, and it's intense all the way to the end. Finally, last night's review was Oculus, which is an 8 out of 10. Directed by Mike Flanagan. It was the first Mike Flanagan production that I ever watched. And I've been a huge fan of his and the movie ever since. It's a great movie. I love the concept, the story, the acting's great, and the ending is really awesome. I think so, at least. So those are the reviews from the past week. You can check those out on TikTok. Again, the link will be in the show notes. Moving on to the video game news. So Texas Chain Saw Massacre was released yesterday, August 18th, on Friday. It's 3 killers against 4 survivors. And I was going to hold off on this. I wasn't quite sold on it. So I was going to hold off because it's free on Game Pass on Xbox, but of course I don't have Xbox. I play on PlayStation. It's not free there. So I wanted to hold off, kind of get the vibes and wait because I didn't want to buy it and then not play it. But I woke up yesterday morning, checked out some streams. A lot of people were streaming it, and it looked really fun. And I felt like, I'm one of the horror kids, so I felt like I was doing a disservice to the community by not playing Texas Chainsaw. So I picked it up, and we streamed it last night. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's been a blast so far. I was afraid that it was going to be too similar to Dead by Daylight, but it's really not. It's very different. It's way more strategic. You have to be very stealthy in this game. It does have some connection issues, which aren't out of the normal for a brand new game. And my other complaint is that there's 2 made-up villains for the game for some reason. So we have Leatherface, we have the Cook, and we have the Hitchhiker, which are obviously three original characters from the movie. However, I guess to add more choices for players, they made up two more villains. So we have Johnny and we have Sissy. And I'm not really sure why. Like, I get they probably only have the license to the first movie, so they couldn't add in other characters, but it would have been really, really cool if they could have added in, Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw 2, or even, one of the other family members from one of the numerous Texas Chainsaw movies. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a small complaint. Overall, it's still fun. I still enjoy playing it. So yeah, I'm going to keep playing it. I don't think it's going to be more popular than Dead by Daylight as far as streaming and players go, but overall, it's still really fun, and it'll be a nice little change of pace there. So, upcoming horror movies. Only a couple here. Like, we went over the list last week, but we have two here. So, September 1st, All Fun and Games. A group of Salem teens discover a cursed knife that unleashes a demon that forces them to play gruesome, deadly versions of childhood games where there can be no winners, only survivors. So just judging by the premise, it sounds like that could be really cool, or it could be really bad. But I think this one has Natalie Dyer from Stranger Things in it, so I'm already kind of intrigued by that. And I mean, if we're doing, gruesome, deadly versions of childhood games, I'm all about it. So excited to see that. I don't know if it'll come to theaters around me or not, but definitely check it out when I can. And the second one was It Lives Inside. So last week, it was on my list, and I didn't have any details about it. I couldn't remember what it was. So I pulled up the premise, and here's what it is. So it's an Indian-American teenager struggling with her cultural identity, has a falling out with her former best friend, and in the process, unwittingly releases a demonic entity that grows stronger by feeding on her loneliness. So after I read the description, I realized that, yes, I've seen this trailer numerous times, and it does look like it could be really creepy, really cool. Or, as always, it could not be. But let's hope that it's a success, because yeah, it looks pretty gnarly. So hopefully, again, that one comes to theaters near me, and I'll check that one out as well. From there, as far as the upcoming week here, in addition to the podcast and streaming and all that, I do want to do movie commentaries. So it'll be kind of the same format as the podcast. I won't stream the commentaries. I'll just record them and put them up on YouTube and on all the podcasts apps. But what we'll do essentially is I'll kind of do an intro to it, and then whoever wants to watch the movie, if you own it or if it's on streaming, then essentially we'll just all hit start at the same time, and I'll just kind of do commentary for it. So we're going to do Scream. I'm not sure what day yet, but it'll be this week. We'll try it out with Scream, and we'll go from there. But there's a whole list of movies that I would love to do stuff like this with. So hopefully we can kind of get that figured out, and it's enjoyable enough. And yeah, that's what I got. But yeah, I'll try to keep the commentary as interesting as possible. But yeah, we'll try it out this week with Scream, see how that goes. On a side note, if you ever want to see some interesting shit, go check out the horror movie section on Plex. Because last night I spent at least an hour just scrolling through. I haven't reached the end. This was 3:30 in the morning. I hadn't done a review on TikTok yet, and I just got caught up in all the movies on Plex. And I had to make myself stop so I could do a review and go to bed. But there's so many movies on there. There's good ones, bad ones. So bad they're good ones. And some ridiculous off-the-wall type shit. And it was very, very entertaining. So yeah, if you ever need some movies to go through, check out the horror section on Plex. But from there, we're going to get into our main topic of the night. Like I said, there's quite a bit of information to get through here. Now, we're talking about opening scenes. What are the best opening scenes the best opening scenes in a horror movie. So, of course, there will be some mild spoilers. I won't be talking much about the movies themselves, just the opening scenes. But for anyone who hasn't seen these movies, there may be some spoilers. That's all I got. So I asked the community, asked the Ghoul Squad, and Goalie Julie said, "When a Stranger Calls." Now, I haven't seen that movie in forever, so I didn't add it to my list, but it is a great one. From what I remember, I think it is the infamous scene, is the opening scene, right? It has the babysitter, played by Carol Kane, watching the kids. They're upstairs sleeping, and then she gets the calls. And I believe that's all the opening. She gets the call that says, "Have you checked the children?" And then she contacts the police, and they say the call is coming from inside the house. Because I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I believe that is the opening. And that is really anytime you hear about that movie, it's that scene. So yes, absolutely fantastic scene. And she also said is The Descent, which, like I said, I just reviewed that this past week. It is pretty shocking the first few minutes. There's a lot of feels in that first 4 or 5 minutes. But yeah, I didn't add it to this list, but it is another fantastic opening scene. So as far as the ones I have here, we're going to start off with the very, very obvious, the one that 99% of horror fans say is the best opening scene, and that is Ghost Ship. So it sets the bar very, very high for opening scenes because it's so good. Especially seeing it for the first time, you're not expecting that at all, and it is a gruesome, awesome scene. Unfortunately, it sets the bar so high, for that movie at least, that the rest of the movie never really lives up to it. The rest of the movie is kind of forgettable. But that opening scene, though, that's chef's kiss. That is fantastic. The next one I have is Halloween. Now, it was in 78. Everyone, that's familiar with Halloween now probably forgets that it is such an iconic opening scene. I wish I could see it again for the first time, because you get that POV shot. Someone is, killing this teenager. So you think it's obviously another teenager, it's an adult, whatever. We don't know. We can't see. And then Michael's out the house. His parents come home. They rip off his mask, and it's a 6-year-old kid. It's just a 6-year-old kid that just slaughtered his sister. That is an iconic opening scene for sure. So I feel like a lot of people kind of forget that that's how it started. But yeah, iconic opening scene. Next one is Scream. It's another one I'd love to see for the first time. Now, I was younger when I saw Scream. I didn't really understand or fathom who exactly was in this movie when I saw it. But if I'd been a little older at the time and realized that it's Drew Barrymore in the opening scene, that she's probably at that time the biggest star in the movie. So when it opens with her, you obviously probably think she's going to be the final girl, or at least she's going to make it through this movie. And then she's the opening kill. No one ever expected it. It's such a good opener. I'm pretty sure she was on the poster. I know, like the main Scream poster that's just the face, that is Drew Barrymore. I couldn't remember though if she was on the one that had the characters in the front or not. But regardless, yeah, to cast Drew Barrymore in that movie at the time and then her be the opening kill was so ballsy, and it worked so well. And in that franchise as well, as an honorable mention, I'll say Scream 6. Just because it was so different. It was such a twist on the franchise opening scenes. I won't get into details of that one because it is more of a newer movie. But I really enjoyed that one. I don't think it's the best, but for that franchise, I really liked the twist and the way that they did it. So from there, we have It. I lumped together the miniseries and Chapter 1 because they are pretty similar. The miniseries did it great, and I've got mad love for Tim Curry as Pennywise. But in my opinion, Chapter 1 did it better. I love Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. He's so damn good in the sewer grate opening scene there. So regardless of which one you prefer, they're both fantastic opening scenes to that movie or miniseries. From there, The Quiet Place, or A Quiet Place, I'm sorry. So the opening scene to A Quiet Place is really, really good. Now, I like the movie, but it's another one that the opening scene kind of sets the bar so high that the rest of the movie doesn't quite live up to it. It's got tension and feels galore. But yeah, the rest of the movie just doesn't really compare to that opener. Like it just has those feels and the tension. And I mean, the rest of the movie is, does have feels. It is tense, but not quite the feel of that opener. So I think it's a really solid opening to a movie. As well as It Follows, another tense and brutal opener. I was not expecting that gnarly death scene right off the bat. Girl comes running out of the house, and, watching it for the first time, you think maybe this is who we're gonna follow the whole movie. And then it's not, and it's quite the visual shock, just the way that she's posted up on the beach like that. So yeah, another fantastic opener. And then I had The Ring. Now I remember seeing this one for the first time, and it was quite the kickoff to this movie because you don't know what's going on. Of course, now we all know the ring lore and what to expect, but back then with the first movie, it was all new, unless you had watched the original Japanese version, which I had not at that time. So I was going in completely unaware of what was going to happen. So yeah, when you get the phone call, when the water starts leaking out of the TV, and then it just takes the girl away. Fantastic opening to The Ring. Now this one might be a little, I don't know, what's the word? Some people might have some issue with this next one. But I'm going to say A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. Now hear me out. I'm not a fan of the movie at all, but the opening scene is one of the very few good things about this movie. I love the opening scene. The Callan Lutz death scene, that one has stuck with me for a very long time. Ever since the first time I watched it. That's the one thing from that movie that has stood out to me. I was not expecting it at all. Now the original has a fantastic opening scene, but is it one of the best? Not really, in my opinion. But this one, if they were going to do one thing right, it was this opening scene, because it is gnarly, it's gory, and it was shocking for sure. So I don't know. Some people might have some issue with that just because of that movie, but I really enjoyed the opening scene at least. Speaking of remakes, redos, whatnot, Dawn of the Dead 2004. Fantastic opening scene. This will probably be up there for my pick for one of the best. It's exciting, it's action-packed, it's dreadful, it's bloody, gory, and it sets the perfect tone for the rest of the movie. Now, arguably, it may be another one that kind of sets it maybe a little too high, but I do enjoy the rest of the movie, and there's still a lot of good scenes throughout the movie. But that opening is just really, really good. From the time that the little neighbor girl first shows up as a zombie, to the attack on her husband, to the chase scene, her getting out of the house, to the complete fucking destruction and annihilation of everything around her. Just the whole thing, that first 4 or 5 minutes, is just fantastic. So I'm a huge fan of that opening scene. From there, Evil Dead 2013. Now, we're going to have a whole other talk about remakes, reboots, what's a sequel, what's a remake, all that. So I won't get into all that with Evil Dead right now. We'll save that for another one. But the opening scene for Evil Dead 2013, I absolutely love that movie. I saw it in theaters. I still remember it vividly. And the opening scene was just so fucked up. I loved every second of it. We have the possessed girl tied to the thing in the basement there. Her dad is talking to her. It's all the feels. And then he lights that match, and she just comes out with a line, "I'll rip your soul out, you pathetic fuck." It's so good. even now, just thinking about it, like I get the chills. Like it's such a good opening to that movie, and that whole movie is great. I love that movie. But in keeping with Evil Dead Rise, another fantastic opening scene. I don't think it's quite as good as 2013, but it is still pretty solid. And it has one of, if not the best, opening title shots in horror movies. So we may have to come up with another list of great title shots, but this one will be at the very, very top, in my opinion at least. So gnarly, such a cool idea and a cool concept. So yeah, if you haven't seen Evil Dead, any of them, go check them out. But especially the 2013 Evil Dead Rise. So we got two more here. The next one up is Talk to Me. Now this one is like a brand new movie, so I don't want to throw in any spoilers at all. But it's another brutal, shocking opening scene. And it definitely sets the bar way too high. Because I was not expecting what happened to happen. And then from there, it just kind of seemed like it got really slow, drug out quite a bit. Until the next exciting thing happened, which wasn't for a while. But the opening scene was really, really good and Talk to Me. It's still a solid movie. I still enjoyed it, so definitely check it out when you can. And then the final one on this list that I have is probably, like we have Ghost Ship, which everyone talks about. I think this one is probably the best because it has fucked up an entire generation. At least one generation, maybe more. But it's Final Destination 2. Because the damn log truck. Like, it still gives me anxiety anytime I'm on the highway and I see a log truck. Like, I can't be behind it. I can't be beside it. I have to pass that fucker as soon as possible. So it is in my rearview mirror. Because, yeah, regardless of how you feel about that movie, the opening scene of the first one is great for airplanes. But the log truck, I feel like, is just way more powerful and way more brutal. So yeah, that is probably my vote for the best opening scene in a horror movie, Final Destination 2. Regardless of how the rest of the movie is, that opening scene is iconic and it has stuck with a lot of us for a very long time now. So yeah, that's what I would go with. But anyone, watching, listening, if you have some other ones that I haven't mentioned on here, please let us know in Discord, on the comment section, on Facebook, wherever you're watching or listening. Let us know, because I would love to get some more on that list as well. But yeah. But that'll do it. That was our topic today. Best opening scenes. So, yeah, if you've got more that you think should be on the list, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. But, yeah, that will do it for another episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with us. Be sure to follow on Twitch at Ian Van Ghoul. Join the Ghoul Squad Discord. Subscribe on YouTube. And follow on TikTok at Ian.VanGhoul. All links are posted in Linktree on all social media. The Discord link was broken in the link tree, which I just found out about. So if you had tried to click that in the past week and it didn't work for you, try it again. It should be working, should be all good. But until next week, I've been your host, Ian Van Ghoul. Have a ghoulish week, and you stay safe out there.